My name is Zainab Mahfood. I'm 25 years old. I grew up around her. I grew up in Arncliffe, spent a lot of time during my school years around Hurstville. Yeah, so I work with a lot of young people from culturally and linguistically diverse communities, Hurstville being quite a diverse community and with a lot of people who are non-English speaking or English as a second language. So do a lot of work around spaces where people are, I guess, either vulnerable or kind of transitioning to Australia. So it's a lot of work with specifically young people, being able to assist them in accessing services, whether that's kind of mental health services or services across education and supporting their families. There's a lot of a social aspect to it as well. So just engaging them in community, re-engaging them in the society that we live in, assisting them in being quite active citizens in our community, whether that's supporting them through creating a platform or a space for their voices to be heard. So I do a lot of work in photography and in the arts, and primarily it's to allow young people to have a space to share their stories that aren't narrated by a second party but by their lived experience. There's also a lot of work in terms of connecting and networking young people together to like-minded communities. So there's a lot of cultural work that goes into supporting young people and ensuring that they're culturally safe and they're not, I guess, dislocated from their culture after moving here. So there's a lot of work where, helping people meet others from a similar culture or connect to their own roots and their own heritage. And it's a way to help them feel quite grounded in such a chaotic transition. For me personally, I think that when people are culturally connected to their roots, it does assist processing a lot of trauma or going through this healing phase. It's not the same for everyone, but I think it does help in supporting young people, letting them know that there are support networks around them that aren't just a Western institution, i.e. like therapy or counselling, but they're actual, people that you can have a casual conversation with that can help. I also think it's, important they know that there are, younger people as well around them, that it's not just older people that are trying to assist and that they can feel a bit more comfortable speaking to a young person themselves. A lot less of the kind of top-down approach and more of the bottom-up. I kind of picked up photography when I was very young. I think like about 7. I really just loved holding the camera and taking photos. It dropped off for a little bit and then I went overseas on a student exchange. So I lived in Italy for about 5 weeks with an Italian family, and I think my photography kind of interest peaked then, and I have been sustaining my creative practice since, and that was about 10 years ago. In the last 2 or 3 years, it's come down to quite a strong focus on, as I mentioned, supporting young people. So a lot of the photography I do is around themes of identity, representation, and diversity within Australia. I think Australian media and entertainment lacks a lot of representation, and the representation we do have is, again, narrated by an external party or by, an outside perspective, and so we don't always get a true narration of people and of cultures. And so my photography focuses on trying to create the narrative that's true from the person's experience rather than narrating it myself. It's also trying to provide a safe space for people to explore their identity and try to re-engage with things they may have left because of the racism in Australia. So a lot of the times young people will, again, dislocate themselves from their culture to try to assimilate, and I'm using that word because it's kind of what we're asked to do, but they try to assimilate into the Australian culture so that they don't face a lot of racism or they minimize the amount of racism that they face. Ultimately, what that does is it detaches them from a lot of their core ancestral heritage as well, which is a really big and really important part of who you are. So my photography, and it's less about the images and more about the space that's being created around the images. It's asking for young people to pick up their culture again and feel comfortable in it and feel safe in it and be able to explore and express what they want, what their culture means to them in Australia. So I recently completed a project that was called What's the Occasion, and it was focusing on young people dressed in culturally specific clothing in Western Sydney. I think one of my favourite images is of a young Palestinian activist who is wearing a cultural dress. It's positioned in Bankstown Station, which is a very diverse community, and I think what's so specific about the photo is that there's this very visually cultural person in Bankstown Station, which is known to, I guess, house a lot of Arab migrants and refugees. But the experience that the young person felt or shared with me is that they don't generally wear this clothing in a station. And so, the image is trying to show that you can do something like that. You can casually wear, what is traditionally yours and what is traditionally your ancestors in a place that's so casual as a train station. It doesn't need to be a formal event. It doesn't need to be, if you're speaking at an event or at a forum or at a culturally diverse organized event for school. It can just be, I'm going to the shops and I want to wear this. And so the image is, she's positioned seated down at the station, and you see the orange Bankstown sign behind her, and she's kind of looking into the distance. And I think it's just a nice juxtaposition of what Australia could look like if people were exposed more to culturally diverse communities.